Demetrius Andrade finally gets a marquee fight. Or does he? Coming right up.
Do you got game?
I hope you know it's not a game, boy. I hope you know real pack handhelds. I hope you know it's not a game, boy. No batteries included, just some assault battery charges. Homie, man, you gotta be cautious. You gotta be nauseous, the way that we shake things up. Put 8 to your ribs, make you take things up. Careless in the kitchen, the way we break things up. And since y'all coming now, man, let's take things up. I get bucks like a mason trade, plus I'm sharp like a razor blade. Excuse me on these cuts. Some of y'all cats confuse me when you tough, cause you turn around and get pussy like you got no nuts. I turn around and get pussy like I signed with the Bucks. I ball like Peyton, while all of y'all hating. More money, more problems, that's all in the making. You think I'm not here to stay? You sadly mistaken. I got game. You got game.
Yo, look out, boxing fans. It's your boy Ashley Knuckles coming at you once again. I'm on a roll so far. You know, I haven't dipped and did other things. I'm pumping out these videos. You never know how long it's gonna go. So like, share, and leave a comment. Chop it up with your boy, man, while those juices are flowing. So anybody who has followed the amateur system into the professional system, when you're talking about talented southpaws to come into the sport of boxing within this era, you have to mention Demetrius Boo Boo Andrade, who has fought everybody in the amateurs like Sean Porter, like Keith Thurman and the likes. And if you would have saw him coming into the ranks, everybody knew this was a can't miss prospect. Well, it's unfortunate how this guy's career has gone, being held back from all the marquee fights in his career. He is literally the modern version of Mark Too Sharp Johnson. How all the talented fighters within and around his weight just don't fight him. And you couple that with the fact that he has not made the best decisions in terms of his career and making fights. Like I said, it's just unfortunate the way it has gone. But keeping that in mind, you have to give that man credit, because in spite of all that, he is still a 2-division world champion. And now when I read the boxing news articles, I see that it may be finalized that he'll finally get a marquee fight against, the Mexican monster who we all know as David Benavidez. So Demetrius Andrade, talented guy, a guy who had all the skills, who has gotten away from a lot of the fundamentals of the sport. But right now, as his athleticism is fading, he's starting to go back to his solid fundamentals. He's not moving away from guys. He's walking guys down. He's sitting down on his punches now. And his fights are starting to be a whole lot more entertaining. The bad part about it is he's still not fighting the top-notch guys. He's been on the European tour for the last few years. And what I mean by that, he's not securing the bigger names in the divisions that he's campaigning in. And it's unfortunate, because all he ever wanted to do was fight the best that they got out there in the sport of boxing. So like I said before, if you ever followed him coming up, he was signed with Joe DeGuardia, with Star Boxing, and Artie Palulo's, what's Artie Palulo's promotional company? Star Boxing, and I forget what Art Palulo's promotional company is, but they were co-promoting together Demetrius Andrade. Back when the Tuesday night fight, Thursday night fights was going on, you would see him on ESPN. You saw the blazing hand speed, you saw the punching power, you saw the elusiveness, you saw the pure boxing skills, this talented fighter. And, for one reason or another, whether it was HBO, who was still a boxing giant back then, or Showtime, or any of the networks, the major boxing networks, you just had no understanding of why they did not put this guy on the big stage against some of the better names that are out there in the sport of boxing. Well, after leaving Joe DeGuardia, Star Boxing, and it's unfortunate for Joe DeGuardia and Art Palulo, You know, it's not a money thing. They have money. But if you don't have dates, if you don't have contacts and you don't have TV dates, you don't have what it takes to market a star fighter or a guy who you think could be a star in today's game. You just do not, you know. So once he left those guys, you know, he thought the way to go would be signing with Matchroom Boxing with Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn, who just secured a lucrative deal with DAZN Boxing to where he had over $1 billion of capital to play with. And he also, with that capital, was able to lure some marquee fighters to his banner. And if they weren't under the Matchroom banner, they were still on DAZN as a network. So Demetrius Andrade, after, you know, severely wetting himself in terms of not taking pulling out of the fight with Jamel Charlo years ago, you would have thought this was a step in the right direction because he went where he thought the money was. So since being with Matchroom Promotions, what happened? What happened with Demetrius Andrade? Not a damn thing happened with Demetrius Andrade. He was still looking for the bigger names within and around his weight. And for one reason or another, Eddie Hearn was not able to produce for him. Eddie Hearn, who had Saul Canelo Alvarez under his banner, that was within and around the weight that Demetrius Andrade was campaigning and was champion. He also had Triple G. How come Demetrius Andrade could not get these fights? Oh, PBC. It was PBC's fault. You know, Al Heyman, blame PBC. Oh, LDBC for short. LDBC, they had to be a part of this in some capacity. Because all you hear about is PBC don't do this, PBC don't do that. But you just don't keep the same energy across the board. How come Eddie Hearn could not secure Demetrius Andrade marquee fights with fighters within his own stable? Y'all getting mad at PBC or not crossing the street. What about when you're in the same fucking house? But see, you have no idea what it's like to analyze from an unbiased eye. And that's where I come into play, because I'm going to serve it to you raw and uncut. I'm going to give it to you the way you put it out there, because that energy you put out there is just from one viewpoint. You don't step out of yourselves. And at the end of the day, you had this talented guy to come into the sport of boxing who has not been defeated, still undefeated in his career, 32-0 with 19 KOs, and still had not had his marquee fight when they were available for him. So now, after Eddie Hearn basically admitting to the media that he could not do what Andrade needed him to do to secure the marquee fights, at least he's being candid and keeping it a buck on that he was not able to get those fights for him. I'm going to go a step further and say he never tried. He never tried to get those fights for him. He never mentioned Andrade to Canelo. He didn't ever mention Andrade to Triple G. Andrade was just a guy to fill a card spot on one of Matchroom's fight cards. He was a co-main event filler. That's all Andrade was to Eddie Hearn. That's all Eddie Hearn thought he would ever would be, because he could not effectively promote him. Just like Joe DeGuardia and Artie Palullo could not promote him. Just keep it real for the boxing fans. That's all we ask. You know, but PBC, you know, PBC's fault, PBC. So now that Andrade is no longer with Eddie Hearn, the first fight right out the gate, it looks like he's fighting David Benavidez. That sounds really wild, because y'all said that Al Heyman don't like making big fights. You know what I'm saying? How come once they leave a promoter that they're with, and that promoter could make fights within their own stable against their own star fighters but didn't, how come when they leave that promoter and get with someone else, the big fights start happening? How come you won't talk about that? Just like with the Terrence Crawford thing. He should have been on the pay-per-view level. He should have been had a pay-per-view with Manny Pacquiao and Mikey Garcia, which you don't hear them say nothing about. Because PBC, PBC, PBC. Amazing how that works. So here we are. PBC, you know, that wicked Al Heyman is trying to negotiate a fight between a promotional free agent and Demetrius Andrade and a guy that's not even with PBC, which is David Benavidez, who signed with Samson Boxing. But if they fight, guess what network they will fight on? I'll give you 3 guesses, but you'll only need 1. And what a time to be challenging the Mexican Monster. You know, this is not the young David Benavidez who became champion at a very young age. You know, where he would have a wild nightlife. He would be doing all type of extracurricular activities in the streets. To the point where he would lose his world title. Not in the ring, but because he was into that wild lifestyle. But right now he's not into that lifestyle. He's a more settled guy. He's a family guy, got a wife and a baby. I believe even 2 now. And fully dedicated to the sport of boxing. He is on the biggest upside that he's been on since he's been a professional. And where he stopped the dog Andre Darrell, who was a great puncher, who was always known for his toughness. Did you ever see those fights with Saki Obika? Saki Obika is one of the toughest guys in 168. Did you see Saki Obika versus Joe Calzaghe? So let's keep it a buck. David Benavidez stopped him. Caleb Plant also stopped Andre Darrell, and then he just stopped Caleb Plant. So there is a big upside. You know, to the point where the boxing fan wants David Benavidez to fight Canelo, but nobody's going to make Canelo fight anybody who he doesn't want to fight. So in the meantime, this is a great fight for David Benavidez. He has nothing but upside here. Because as it stands right now, Demetrius Andrade has never fought anybody on the caliber of a David Benavidez, a guy that's substantially bigger than him. A guy that could easily go up to light heavyweight in campaign. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, as long as he can make, you know, my stilo is as long as you can hit that number on the scale, that's what weight you fight at. There's no such thing as a weight bully. LaMotta was a weight bully if you want to keep it a hundo. You know what I'm saying? But as long as you can weigh in and hit that number, that's the weight you fight in, as long as you feel comfortable. And David Benavidez has just been beating the brakes off of everybody that's been put in the ring with him. He's still undefeated, 2-time world champion, on the cusp of maybe a marquee fight with Canelo. I guess we'll see how the fight with Canelo and Jamel goes. But this is a great fight if they can get it done. This will be a great fight. It's just the bad part about it for Demetrius Andrade is that he's getting up there in age. He's 35 years old. You know, his skills are eroding a little bit. He is a wily veteran. He is a 2-division world champion, so he has the experience. And if there was ever a time to finally secure a fight for him, if you don't get it now, it ain't gonna come. It's not going to come. And like I said before, Eddie Hearn did him absolutely no justice because he never put him in the ring with anybody of the caliber of what he's going to face if that fight gets done against David Benavidez. Because David Benavidez is bigger than him, stronger than him. He has the fastest hands I've seen at 68 since Roy Jones was a 68-pounder. And, you know, just as David Benavidez has said before, man, he put guys in the hospital after fights, and he does. And at this point in Demetrius Andrade's career, he's not a guy that's hard to hit. You can find him now. Whereas before he was so elusive and hard to hit flush, you can find that chin now. You know, he's winning all his fights, Demetrius Andrade. But if you saw in the last fight that he had, I believe it was his last fight, he had a couple of lumps. And you cannot afford to be a target for David Benavidez, whose fast hands is going to get there. You know what I'm saying? he's going to find that target. He never has problems finding that target. At some point within the 12, David is going to catch up with you. Your only hope is that he struggles making the weight, that he falls back into being undisciplined as a fighter and as a champion, and then maybe you can get one up on him and catch him straight slipping. It can happen. It is the sport of boxing. So, David Benavidez, like I said before, he's bigger than Andrade, stronger, fast hands, taller. He's 6'2", whereas Andrade is 6 foot. He has a longer reach. He has a 74.5-inch reach as opposed to like 73. And they both have a lot of championship experience. This is just a very steep hill for Andrade. It's a tremendous step up in class. It's not necessarily a step up in class for Benavidez. It's just a different style that he's never seen. He'll be fighting a southpaw. He hasn't fought a southpaw in a while, an elusive southpaw. And it should make for a good challenge, because not everybody can face good lefties. It is what it is. It's just the truth. But as far as a guy that's elusive, he just fought a guy that was elusive, and he caught up to him. Because David Benavidez knows how to walk guys down and get, like I said, those fast hands are going to get to that target, man. But, man, I hope they, do whatever they got to do to get this fight done. Like I said, it's a tragedy what has happened to Andrade. All he ever wanted to do was fight the best guys that they got out there. Right now, Jamal Charlo is having mental breakdowns and personal issues, getting slapped around. I don't know if he'll ever be the same. I know those guys were doing a lot of FaceTiming, trying to secure a fight between the two of them. But as of right now, Jamal's been out of the ring for 2 years. There's no guarantee when he'll get back in the ring. And if he gets back in the ring, ain't no guarantee he's going to be what he was before. Demetrius Andrade, he just had a fight in January of this year. You know what I'm saying? David Benavidez, his last fight with Plant, let me check that out real quick, was this year too, was in March. So, like I said, all the stars are aligned for this potential matchup. And as a boxing fan, as a hardcore boxing fan, our only hope is that they can get this done and we can have another mega fight, hopefully before the end of the year. But I'm not going to beat a dead horse. Of course, I'll go into it more if the fight gets done and it comes to fruition. Kind of get into the breakdown of what I believe each fighter has to do to secure victory and move on to the next step. But until then, it's your boy, Ashy Knuckles. I appreciate you guys for hollering at me. Hit that like button, share it, don't share it. Just keep coming back to holler at me, and shout out to the LDBC for all the hate they get. I still rock with them. I don't care what nobody say. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is, to the bone gristle. And that's all I got for you. Peace.